I'm going to show you why white oppressive forces secretly mocks and laughs at black people every time we post articles that makes a claim that our minds have been shaped by a slave syndrome myth. Our collective condition is not caused by a silly slave syndrome myth. That myth presents what would in fact be the least effective method used for controlling generations of people. It's simply not how true brainwashing of large populations over generational lines is actually achieved. True brainwashing requires a system wherein which the programming of the targeted population is being reapplied and reinforced unrelentingly. Otherwise, its effectiveness would weaken with each new generations instead of worsening as we witness amongst our people. I'm going to present a summary of how to truly mentally enslave a great and powerful people. Then after presenting the summary, I will demonstrate that it's precisely what has been done to Africans. And here's that summary. The best way to gain control over the most intelligent, powerful species on the planet would be to completely divide them from the love within themselves. This is achieved by taking ownership of all of their narratives and negatively distorting everything that they believe about themselves. This will create self-hatred and disunity, which attacks the core foundation of what bonds a people, and they can then be ruled over forever. As soon as they are old enough to begin creating an understanding of who they are, force them into a system that teaches them that it is wrong to be themselves if they're different from what is accepted as normal. Confuse them about their own biological makeup so that they think that permanently altering their body is the answer to happiness. Require their daily attendance at an institution that makes them focus only on the information that is provided. Make them attend the institution from age 5 until adult and repeatedly test them on the information so that it becomes their truth. Give them an explanation to everything so that they never have a chance to make up their own assumptions of the world. Scold them and humiliate them if they suggest an opinion that opposes that of their authorities. Keep reminding them of how cruel their ancestors were to each other in the past and broadcast how cruel they are to each other in the present. Only show them tragedies on the news about themselves so they live in fear and think the worst of each other. Convince them that their species used to be that of wild animals. Make them think that their very existence is so incredibly random that they lack purpose and struggle to make sense of a creator. Tell them that their kind is as smart as they've ever been so that they don't question the integrity of the system that they're now within. Provide them with idols with artificial beauties and use them as example of what it is to look perfect so that they are never content with their own appearance and can't help but to compare themselves among each other. Now I'm going to match that summary to Africans. The summary that we just heard began by saying that the best way to gain control over an extremely intelligent people. I will demonstrate the immense intelligence of Africans. Naturally, many may find that statement humorous given how negatively the white society depicts black people. However, the white society's negative depiction of black people bears almost no relation to reality whatsoever. It's the result of an elaborate perception management system that falsely diminishes and marginalizes the image of black people in order to maintain false assumptions within a society that aids in maintaining white social dominance over black people. Perception management is a propaganda technique that involves altering the public perception of reality to suit the objective of the ruling class. It's an essential part of modern information warfare. Now I will demonstrate the immense intelligence of the Africans. With the two major studies, one in 1996 and the other in 2018, researchers determined that a genetic contribution to intellectual giftedness by analyzing DNA samples from people around the world. According to geneticists, the higher the DNA series is within a particular group, the higher the chance of genes existing within that group. In a 1996 study, 50 geneticists from 9 different universities around the world tested a DNA series of 136 people from around the world. Before testing humans, they first tested apes. When they tested the orangutan, they found that the orangutan had 3 DNA series. When they tested the gorilla, they found that the gorilla had 4 and the chimpanzee had 5. They then studied Europeans from England, Germany, France, Russia, and Spain. They found that Europeans have 6 DNA series. All other racial groups also have 6 DNA series, except Africans. Africans have 9 DNA series. Africans, therefore, have the highest probability of genes existing within our group. These findings were both published by the Yale University in a manual entitled The Global Pattern of Linkage and Modern Human Origin. In the 2018 study, researchers this time, they analyzed DNA samples from 1,238 people from around the globe. And the results were the same. All other groups of people have 6 DNA series and Africans have 9. The fact that Africans have 9 DNA series while everyone else have 6 might provide us with a scientific explanation for the reason why, in spite of traumas, cultural traumas wrought by the injustice of white racism and slavery, most inventions that revolutionized the world were either in fact invented by Black people or were directly inspired by early inventions by Black people. Black people have in fact enriched nearly every aspect of the world through our many inventions. If you're laughing, it's because you're not functioning based upon reality. You're actually functioning based upon the white society's Black racially devaluing propaganda that falsely marginalizes Black people in order to maintain false assumptions within the society that aids in maintaining white social dominance over Black people. Without Black people, there would exist no internet, no cell phones. We wouldn't have cameras and microphones on our cell phones. We wouldn't have the accurate weather forecasting system. We wouldn't have the cataract laser removal scope. We wouldn't have email, GPS, hearing aids, touch-tone phones, no caller ID, no home surveillance security systems, no motorized vehicles, no steam engines, no traffic lights, no working light bulbs, no elevators, therefore no skyscrapers. We wouldn't have air conditioning, the modern PC, we wouldn't have 3D movies, central heating, we wouldn't have refrigerators, we wouldn't have helicopters, washing machine, lawnmower, dryers, refrigerated trucks, blood bank, fiber optics, nanotechnology, the sanitary pads, the bathroom tissue holders, pencil sharpener. We wouldn't have any of these things. Now, I've just demonstrated in spite of cultural trauma, most inventions come from the minds of Black people. And this has been extraordinary. I've also proved that there wouldn't be there's not a person on this planet that hasn't been impacted positively by the inventions of Black people. Okay, the fact that Africans have 9 DNA series while everyone else have 6 might also provide us with a scientific explanation for our ancient achievements as well. For Africans introduced science, writing, math, and philosophy to the world. Africans invented the wheel, paper, the calendar, the concept of 24 hours to the day. Africans are the first to build in stone and to smelt metal. The world's oldest university, library, manuscript, encyclopedia, human prosthetic, mathematical tools, medical journal are all located in Africa. The world's largest wall ever built is not the Great Wall of China. It's actually the Great Wall of Benin located in Africa. It's 4 times larger than the Great Wall of China and is recognized by the Guinness World Record books as being the largest wall ever built. Now, I've just demonstrated the immense intelligence of Africans. When a well-packaged web of lies have been sold gradually to the masses, the truth will seem utterly ridiculous and the speaker a raving lunatic. Your perception is the result of a perception management system. Now I'm going to demonstrate what's being secretly done to Black people during our education development that matches up with the opening summary. Education is much more than a matter of developing students' cognitive ability in math, language, and science. It is a process of imparting information, knowledge, and values which best enables students to realize their highest potential. Studies shows that how students behave is greatly influenced by what they're taught to believe about themselves. Therefore, it is extremely important that children be taught of the many contributions made by their particular group. Students can then reference these messages about their particular group to acquire their self-image and assess their potential and capabilities in relation to these messages. Therefore, an educational setting that properly nurtures the aspiration and potential of a child is one that includes the many contributions made by the child's particular race or group. This is a basic human need, and it is the basis that children use as a point of reference for their potential. It is particularly important for children living under difficult circumstances to know about and be able to identify with members of their group who can help them feel good about being members of the same group. This basic human need is being deliberately withheld from Black students during our educational development. White governed schools do not provide black students with a racially affirming education. In fact, for most black people, their schools are their places where they first experience the implication that there's something wrong or lesser about being black. To damage the future aspirations of black students, white schools miseducate us to believe that Africans was illiterate and uncivilized before the Europeans invaded, and that therefore we have no significant history. This is, however, disproven by the many facts I've already disclosed. The white educational system's failure to adequately provide black students with a racially affirming curriculum, as it so routinely does for white students, is actually being done for maintaining white dominance. Because for a ruling class to maintain its position of social dominance over its oppressed population, they must condition the oppressed from a very early age to accept their own subordinate status and to adhere to the authority of the dominant society. To do so, the education given to the oppressed from a time that their minds are young and most impressionable must be the type that denies them of a racially affirming education. When the oppressed population are denied of a racially affirming education, even the brightest among them may have little of any hope of mentally extricating themselves from their assigned low dominant position within the society. This is why black students are denied a racially affirming education. It's why they teach black students that our racial group hasn't invented much towards history. It's why black students graduate from school thinking the only thing we invented was peanut butter. We are being conditioned. We've been socially engineered to accept our subordinate status within the white dominant society. This is the true reason why black people are learning more racially affirming facts from each other on social media than we do so from within our school. The minds of black people are being also manipulated through unrelenting, demoralizing media propaganda. The white media's unrelenting negative picture of black people that amplifies the negative to the point that it distorts our reality is much more than just biased media reporting. It's actually a black racially demoralizing divide and conquer psychological warfare campaign. Demoralize, divide, and conquer is a method of maintaining control over a targeted population through constant and unrelenting demoralization in order to create self-loathing and division between them. It is a well-proven tactic. Whenever those in power want to brainwash an entire generation of people to start thinking and acting as they need them to and want them to, they always heavily demoralizes them. This divides them, makes them self-loathing, and it makes them more compliant with their oppressor's dominance over their lives. In fact, many will even prefer it. This is what's actually being done to black people. When you're watching the media, we keep seeing all those negative stories about us. This psychological warfare system is deployed like a massive media marketing campaign that constantly subjects black people to receiving only the fraudulent worst narratives about ourselves. Within this system, fraudulent black racially demoralizing propaganda is being pumped unrelentingly into the unsuspecting minds of black people without being challenged or counterbalanced by an equal amount of black positive racially affirming information. It conveys a subliminal message that black people are our own worst enemies and therefore need whites to govern over our lives. Moreover, that black people should admire, respect, and trust only whites. This system is extremely effective because when black people are repetitively presented these noted narratives from trusted white media sources, it can be very difficult to resist its implied propaganda programming, especially when the propaganda is being told daily and so unrelentingly. This system allows the white society to subjugate black people without us even realizing it. It utilizes the immense power that shame has upon the human mind to mentally enslave black people. Its weapon is the demoralizing message that it carries and the way that it adversely affects black people in terms of our behavior. With time, being unable to refute the constant negative information about ourselves, many black people internalize it, and we eventually come to accept it. The constant negative, demoralizing information unconsciously influences how we function, how we interact with each other, how we treat each other, creating division and self-loathing among us. It also turns our collective aggression away from the white society and redirects it against ourselves. Through the skillful, sustained use of repetitive media propaganda and miseducation, The white society has created a prison for the minds of black people. This is all possible because people are like computers. All you have to do is give them certain information, and you can steer an entire generation towards an implied objective. It doesn't matter if the information presented is untrue. All it matters is that the people believe it's true. Most black people will act upon it because they've all been given the same disinformation about ourselves. The basis of this concept of warfare works by affecting the subconscious minds of black people through unrelenting demoralization. You know, our condition has nothing to do with a slave syndrome. Our condition is we are being programmed to think in ways that benefit the white society. Although the white society publicly profess equality for all groups, they are unrelentingly committed to the preservation of their white dominance. There's also immense fear of massive unified black retribution. So therefore, this fear and commitment to maintaining white dominance has resulted in the white society deploying propaganda campaigns against black people. And unlike the blatant systems of the 60s that we can easily recognize, this system is not easily comprehended by black people. You know, and then they spread the misinformation like Willie Lynch. We're making fools of ourselves when we're sitting around there with Willie Lynch. We look like damn fools, and we don't know how stupid we look when we're publicly saying Willie Lynch. We don't know how stupid we look when we're saying it's Willie Lynch, when it's an entire system that they're deploying against us for maintaining their dominance. And then he says, you may say people have a right to believe what they want to believe, but not in this case. If we keep thinking our condition is Willie Lynch, we will never liberate ourselves, because we must gain a proper understanding of our plight and condition in order to develop the proper liberating strategies to liberate ourselves. The white society socially engineers our mind. Now, I have more that I can tap with that summary, but this is long enough, so I'm going to stop now. Brothers and sisters, if you're walking around saying that we are controlled by Willie Lynch, or that we're fulfilling a prophecy from a Bible written by white people, you are among the ignorant, and your ignorant stands in the way of our liberation. The white man has brainwashed you, dumbed down your mind through their monopoly over information. We have to recognize what's really happening. The reason why many black people are self-loathing, perceive ourselves as our own worst, and revere as Caucasian, is directly connected to the white society's monopoly over information that's fed into our minds. But you see, we were born in this system, so we've normalized it. We've normalized it. When we get a report that says blacks are the worst, blacks are the worst, we don't even question it. White people say it, we say, okay, their lies become our truths, because we've been conditioned to be this way. Brothers and sisters, it's time to wake up. Willie Lynch never existed. Jesus never existed. These are all myths. We are not suffering from a slave syndrome myth. We African Americans are truly Africans. We've had DNA examples. Millions of us have DNA examples to prove we Africans. When they find the old ancient graves of Native Americans, the DNA doesn't match ours. It's all misinformation. It's all lies. We must function based on what's true in order to liberate ourselves. The white society feeds lots of disinformation into our community to keep us confused and divided. We must function based upon the truth. And to do so, we must elevate our minds. We must elevate our minds. The white society deploys so much disinformation. They negatively steer our culture. There's a war being waged against us. And it's time to wake up. We are living in the time of the awakening. One love and peace.